Okay, so the next section here, we've got the main parts of the brain involved with memory, which are the amygdala, hippocampus, the cerebellum, and the prefrontal cortex, as seen in figure 8.8. So here's figure 8.8, and it says the amygdala is involved in fear and fear memories. Here we see the amygdala. We can do a little color coding. Only it won't let me do it for that. But the amygdala there. Then we have the hippocampus, which is associated with declarative and episodic memory, as well as recognition memory. So if you've been practicing, you will remember what those things are, maybe from doing the Quizlet. So that's here, this long sort of purple, lightly purple structure. The cerebellum plays a role in processing procedural memories, such as how to play the piano. So we'll make that one sort of a light blue. That's back here. And then the prefrontal cortex is already colored for you. And this is the one that appears to be involved in remembering semantic tasks. Okay, so the amygdala. First, let's look at the role of the amygdala in memory formation. The main job of the amygdala is to regulate emotions such as fear and aggression, which you'll remember from the social psychology section, aggression. The amygdala plays a part in how memories are stored because storage is influenced by stress hormones. For example, one researcher experimented with rats and the fear response. Using Pavlovian conditioning, a neutral tone was played with a foot shock to the rats. So this produced a fear memory in the rats. So there was a tone, and then they got a shock. After being conditioned, every time they heard the tone, they would freeze, which is a defense response in rats, which indicated a memory for the impending shock. Then the researchers induced a cell death in the neurons in the lateral amygdala, which is the specific area of the brain responsible for fear memories. They found the fear memory faded or became extinct. Because of its role in processing emotional information, the amygdala is also involved in memory consolidation, the process of transferring new learning into long-term memory. The amygdala seems to facilitate encoding memories at a deeper level when the event is emotionally arousing. Remember, encoding being one of the main stages of the memory process here. Okay, so then there's a TED Talk here about using a laser to manipulate fear memory in rats. So you can watch that if you would like. There's a link to it. Next, we have the hippocampus. Another group of researchers also experimented with rats to learn how the hippocampus functions in memory processing. They created lesions in the hippocampi, which is just the plural of hippocampus, so little cuts in the hippocampi of the rats, and found that the rats demonstrated memory impairment on various tasks, such as object recognition and maze running. They concluded that the hippocampus is involved in memory, specifically normal recognition memory as well as spatial memory, when the memory tasks are like recall tasks. Another job of the hippocampus is to project information to the cortical regions that give memories meaning and connect them with other memories. It also plays a part in memory consolidation, the process of transferring new learning into long-term memory. Injury to this area leaves us unable to process new declarative memories. One famous patient, known for years only as HM, had both his left and his right temporal lobes, and so the hippocampi, removed in an attempt to help control the seizures he had been suffering from for years. As a result, his declarative memory was significantly affected, and he could not form new semantic knowledge. He lost the ability to form new memories, yet he could still remember the information and events that had occurred prior to the surgery, ever known. You had the separate ed puzzle about that. Okay, last section for this video, the cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex. Let's just remember where all of this stuff is. Look back. We've got the cerebellum is here, the prefrontal cortex here. We've already talked about the amygdala and the hippocampus. So this is prefrontal cortex, cerebellum. Although the hippocampus seems to be more and be able to create implicit memories, procedural memory, motor learning, and classical conditioning, thanks to your cerebellum. For example, one classical conditioning experiment is to accustom subjects to blink when they are given a puff of air to the eyes. I hate that. When researchers damaged the cerebellums of rabbits, they discovered that the rabbits were not able to learn the conditioned eye blink response. Other researchers have used brain scans, including positron emission tomography, or PET scans, to learn how people process and retain information. From these studies, it seems the prefrontal cortex is involved. In one study, participants had to complete two different tasks, either looking for a letter A in words, which is considered a perceptual task, or categorizing a noun as either living or non living, which is considered a semantic task. So participants were then asked afterwards which words they had previously seen. Recall was much better for the semantic task than for the perceptual task. According to the PET scans, there was much more activation in the left inferior prefrontal cortex in the semantic task. In another study, encoding was associated with the left frontal activity, while retrieval of information was associated with the right frontal region. So just different little areas of the prefrontal cortex there.